Hello everyone, Harry here, welcome back, thanks for joining me. I hope you're all well. Harrison's Mixbus, is it any good? That's the question. I've just released MixBus 6. They must be spending quite a lot of money on marketing because I've seen it everywhere for the last couple of weeks. You win, I'm going to give it a go. When I went through the process of picking my new DAW and I ended up picking Reaper, I didn't even try out Harrison Mixbus. I kind of saw it as not really a legitimate DAW from things that I'd read on the internet. I've seen a couple of things saying it's really good. I've seen an awful lot of things saying it's questionable or not brilliant. I think the only fair thing to do is to download the demo and give it a go. What I'm going to do is, I've got a song that I've just finished writing for another YouTube series. I'll put the link up there so you can have a watch. I'm not going to go too in depth. I'm not going to spend days recording or mixing this. I'm literally going to bash it out in an hour or so. I just want to see how it feels, how it all works, and whether it's something I could see myself using. Obviously the idea of the DAW is that it emulates a Harrison console. I've never used a Harrison console, so I don't really know what it's emulating, but I do like the idea of the analog sound and the warmth and the clarity that it brings. So let's get into it. So I downloaded the demo, got it all loaded up. I was presented with a rather complicated start screen, but once I'd worked out what it was asking me, I got that all sorted pretty quickly. I had a quick look at the window, added a track, called it guitar because that was the plan. I then tried to add my guitar sim, couldn't find it, and I couldn't find any of my other plugins either. So I went menu diving, found that I needed to A, rescan for plugins because it hadn't done it automatically, and B, I had to then tell the DAW the file paths to search for the plugins, which isn't something I've ever seen before. Usually the DAWs will do basically a full search of the computer and load everything in. So I went through a long process of telling the DAW where all of my plugins were. This is a little bit my fault really because I haven't got a centralised folder with all my plugins in, they're just kind of all over the place. After I'd done that, I went back to try and insert the guitar amp plugin that I use, and it still hadn't shown up, so I was very confused. I tried again to put the file path into it, but every time I scanned, it just wouldn't pick it up, so I hit up Google and was pretty shocked to find out that MixBus doesn't support either 32-bit bridged plugins or VST3 plugins, which is mental, really. A lot of the plugins that I use, and I would imagine a lot of other people as well, are either 32-bit bridged or VST3, so it doesn't support any VST3 instruments, which in 2020 is pretty poor. So I then thought, well, I'll just record some bass and stuff. I can use the plugins that I've got for bass. But I discovered that even though I'd told the DAW that my Focusrite was my input and my output, it decided it wasn't going to send any audio whatsoever to my speakers. So that confused me for quite a while. I spent about half an hour trying to sort that out. Ended up going forum diving to solve that one, and essentially, it's a common problem. It seems to happen a lot. And the consensus of it was, yeah, if that happens, just switch the system off and switch it back on again, it'd be fine. So by this point, I realised that this little hour experiment that I was doing to just see how easy it would be to record and mix in MixBus, I was 3 hours in and I hadn't done a single productive thing yet. So I decided that I was pissed off with it all. I wasn't going to make the video, sacked it off and played Portal for a bit. And then I decided that I should really give it a proper go. A lot of the reviews I've seen for MixBus are more centred around mixing rather than tracking, so I thought, I've got some audio from another project, I'll drag it in, I'll give it a mix and see how it all goes. So I went through the process of bouncing all the audio out of Reaper and then dragging it into MixBus. I did a little bit of arrangement, I just trimmed a few things and dragged a few things and dropped a few things. I can't really speak too much of the arrangement tools because I didn't use many of them. The snap tool works well, the zoom tool works well, everything's kind of where you expect it to be. So I got that all sorted and then I moved over to the mix window. The mix window is exactly what you expect, it's just a big old mixer. I decided I was going to try and use as many of the Harrison plugins as I could just to kind of see what they were all about. The channel strip plugins, first impressions, I thought they were really, really good. Really easy, massively streamlined the workflow. I didn't have to go add in plugins or anything, just the comp, the EQ, a little bit of limiter is just all on the channel strip, which is brilliant because for a lot of instruments that's all you really need. I started to experiment a little bit with the actual mix buses, which is kind of the selling feature of this DAW really. And after I played with them for 5 minutes, I realised that they are just sends, which was a bit of a shame really. I figured that they would be buses, but they weren't, they were sends. I was very confused as to why I was making big changes on the buses and it really wasn't affecting the signal at all. So after I got that sorted, I kind of got the hang of it, and it all came together really quickly. The workflow is really good, it all makes quite a lot of sense. I think you can delve into it an awful lot more than I did. I only barely touched the surface of what it can do, but it did all come together very easily. I really didn't have to use that much processing, and the finished product sounded absolutely brilliant. Right, so here we are. I've got both of the demos, one from Reaper, one from MixBus. As I said before, I tried my best to use as many of the Harrison plugins as possible that came with MixBus. I did use a couple of my own, just because I knew them a little bit better. I found some of the Harrison plugins to be a little bit tricky to use. I think if I spent another couple of hours on it, I'd probably really like what they've got, but this was only supposed to be a quick comparison. I didn't want to spend any more than a couple of hours mixing it. I went through a pretty similar process I did for the Reaper demo. The only difference with the MixBus is that I haven't referenced it. I kind of referenced it a little bit just by ear, but I haven't used any reference EQs. I haven't taken it out to the car or listened to it on Bluetooth speaker or anything. It's literally, I've just bounced it straight out of MixBus. So I'll play 10 seconds of both, and then I'll tell you what I think, basically. This is the Reaper version. And this is the MixBus version. Right, so conclusion. My first 2 to 3 hours of using this DAW were awful. It was a huge ball ache. I've never had to Google anything so much just to get it open and working. I've never experienced anything like that before, and as I said in the video, I nearly just quit and threw it out the window. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I worked it all out and persisted with it. When I finally got into the program, I really enjoyed it, actually. I really enjoyed the way it worked. I think the mix window and how the mixer operates is really good. The built-in channel plugins, I really enjoyed them, actually. I like the concept. I think it's really good. It kind of falls down a little bit, though, because for doing minor adjustments to EQs and things, you're going to have to drag an EQ onto the channel, because the dialed EQ is brilliant for high pass, low pass, but it's not so good for doing proper adjustments. If you're throwing a visual EQ onto the channel, then you might as well just use the visual EQ. Same with the compressor, same with the limiter. The built-in channel one was really good and it was really effective and it sounded great, but if you do want to adjust the knee or the attack or anything like that, then you're going to have to drag one into the channel anyway, and at that point you might as well just use that, so it kind of deems the one that's built into the channel useless. The drive and the saturation on the MixBuses was really good. It did add an analog warmth to the track, which is something I haven't experienced too much. I thought it was actually really nice. It didn't over push anything, it didn't feel like it was being over processed, it just sounded a lot nicer. That said, I know that you can get plugins that I could put in Reaper that would do exactly the same thing, so is it a sellable feature? Not sure. But unfortunately, the fact that it can't run any of the plugins that I like just throws it in the bin immediately. It goes straight into the pile with Cubase is too expensive and Pro Tools is too expensive. That's the pile it goes into. I have found out since using it yesterday that Steinberg, of all people, actually make a patch which you can put onto MixBus to allow it to run VST3s. Seems very odd to me. I don't know why they've done that. If they can do it, why haven't Harrison's done it? With that in mind, I probably will try it again at some point in a couple of months' time, just to see how the arrange window actually works and see whether tracking in it is alright. I think cost-wise, at the moment, it's on sale, I think, for $69 with some free plugins as well, which brings it into kind of Reaper territory. At the usual price, you're kind of looking, this is up against a basic Studio One package or a basic Cubase package or something. I don't know whether I'd pay the full price for it, especially not with, as I've said 100 times in my other videos, Reaper being so cheap and so capable. So I hope that's helped. I'm going to do a couple more DAW comparisons in the next couple of weeks, so subscribe to my channel and make sure you don't miss any of them. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. See you soon.